Hello everyone, this is Baldermort on behalf of Remleys for 40k Theories, and welcome to this new episode of 40k Lore for Newcomers. For this episode, nominated on Patreon by Towie, we will be taking a brief look at the Catachan Jungle Fighters. This video will be a brief overview for certain events that may be explored in greater depth within additional videos in the future. So without further ado, let us begin. The Catachan Jungle Fighters, a brief overview.
Oh, as swift as a lash mamba, as sharp as a spine leaf, and as stubborn as a wild crox.
Colonel Pannent. The Catachan Jungle Fighters are a series of Astra Militarum regiments that are recruited from the death world of Catachan. The Jungle Fighters, true to their name, are combat experts in forest-based warfare, able not only to navigate through such environments with ease, but also use the surrounding terrain to their advantage. As well as this, the Catachan Jungle Fighters are also famed throughout the Imperium for their toughness, cunning, and incredible resourcefulness. Indeed, it is often said that a single Catachan Jungle Fighter is worth the equivalent to 10 Guardsmen from any other Astra Militarum regiment. While the Jungle Fighters may excel in dense jungle or otherwise forested environments, they are equally capable of utilizing their skills in a multitude of different war zones. It is this adaptability, demonstrated by the Jungle Fighters, combined with their general hardiness and ingenuity, which make them some of the best guerrilla fighters within the entire Astra Militarum. Thanks to their Deathworld origins, the average Jungle Fighter is larger and more powerfully built than the average Guardsman, owing to a life lived on a planet that is all but inhospitable to human life. As a result of their sheer size in comparison to typical baseline humans, Catachans are sometimes jokingly referred to by guardsmen of other regiments as baby ogrins. Whatever the case, the Jungle Fighters are natural-born survivors and killers, who will happily, if not gleefully, fight within the most dangerous and hellish war zones imaginable, viewing such endeavors as simple cakewalks compared to daily life upon their home world. Such claims are not simple bravado or gung-ho arrogance, but a testament to the skill and talent for self-preservation exhibited by the Jungle Fighters. The origins of the Catachan Jungle Fighters.
We've run into scorpions the size of battle tanks. 3 men died from eye rot last week. I've sweat enough to fill a lake, my boots got sucked into a sink swamp, and the trees are so thick in places you can't squeeze between them. Emperor help me, I love this place. It's just like home.
Captain Rock of the Catachan 3rd Regiment. The Catachan Jungle Fighters can trace their origins back to a period of history known as the Dark Age of Technology, a time when humanity was making its first forays into interstellar expansion and colonization. When the world of Catachan was first discovered by humanity, it was believed to be a prime site for colonization due to its vast, lush and verdant jungles, giving it a deceptively peaceful appearance. However, when the colony ships made their controlled crash landings upon Catachan's surface, the colonists, upon awakening from stasis, would discover to their horror that they were now marooned upon one of the most inhospitable worlds within the entire galaxy. Indeed, every organism upon Catachan's surface is deadly in its own right, for every animal is a carnivore and every plant is poisonous. To make things even worse, some organisms are known to be both carnivorous and poisonous. Many would die in those early days, hauled up within the remains of their ships as they were besieged by both the native flora and fauna, and it was only the hardiest, quickest and luckiest individuals who managed to survive at all. Eventually, however, these colonists would manage to successfully establish a settlement blasting the surrounding jungle down to the very bedrock in order to both prevent their homes from being engulfed by the ever-encroaching vegetation, as well as to provide clear lines of fire against attacking animals. However, these settlements, much like those upon Catachan today, would only provide a temporary reprieve, as vines and lichens gradually took root upon the surface, constricting it and crushing both walls and tanks alike like eggshells, or secreting an acidic sap which reduces rockcrete to powder, forcing the colonists into semi-nomadic lifestyles of constant migration and rebuilding. But even then, the jungles of Catachan would only proceed to grow ever denser and thicker, while the native wildlife became even more aggressive, almost as if the entire world was attempting to purge itself of human infestation. Eventually, Catachan itself would mold the colonists into a strong and resilient people, who not only managed to survive, but positively thrive amidst the dangers of their new home. In time, the world of Catachan would be rediscovered and integrated into the Imperium of Man, and would in turn go on to provide the Departamento Munitorum with countless numbers of soldiers with little to no equals upon the battlefield. The Catachan Jungle Fighters of the Dark Millennium.
If it walks, we can drop it.
Common Catachan saying. Over the course of their existence, the Jungle Fighters have fought within countless theatres of war, including those of the Pandarax Campaign, the Third War of Armageddon, and the Battle of Hadrak's Folly, among many others. One of their more notable campaigns is that of the Dulma'lin Cleansing. In year 927 Millennium 41, the mining world of Dulma'lin would come under assault from a vast orcish horde, led by the war boss, Kilskar. In response, the Catachan 2nd Regiment, led by Colonel Iron Hand Strachan, along with a number of additional regiments, drawn from the Selvian Dragoons, would be tasked with eliminating the Greenskin threat and retaking the world's capital. The intended plan was that the Catachans would infiltrate behind enemy lines to commit various acts of sabotage, before opening the city gates to allow the Selvian Dragoons to storm the capital en masse and slaughter the Xenos. This plan, however, did not go as intended. The Dragoons, as they made their advance towards the capital, would be caught in a devastating ambush and slaughtered to the last, resulting in the Catachans being the sole Imperial presence available to stand against the Orcs. The Catachans would then conduct a year-long campaign of sabotage and guerrilla warfare against the Greenskins, inflicting as much damage as they could against their foes, before pulling it back again and again, frequently leaving the Orcs confused and disorientated. At some point during their campaign, Strachan himself would come face to face with the legendary Orc commando, Snikrot, and the two would engage in short but bloody duels, one which saw Strachan striking a decisive blow that managed to grievously injure the Orc, forcing him to retreat. Eventually, Strachan and a team of demolition experts would manage to infiltrate the primary Orc encampment within a cavern known as the Momothian Vault, and would painstakingly begin setting up explosives at key points throughout the camp, targeting the vault support stacks, intending to bring the entire cavern down on top of the Orcs and eliminate the bulk of the Greenskin horde with a single blow. While the Jungle Fighters would manage to remain hidden from Orcish sentries for over 3 straight days as they patiently carried out their mission, their presence would eventually be discovered by a pack of squighounds, leading to an intense firefight breaking out between the Jungle Fighters and the Orcs. Colonel Strachan personally held back the bulk of the Greenskin forces while his men began detonating the charges, resulting in dozens of Orcs, including a mob of Killikans, being destroyed in the ensuing conflagration. Strachan himself was also caught in the blast, but the colonel would also succeed in dragging Kilskar down with him, with the two foes ultimately being trampled by a gargantuan squigoth, killing the war boss in the process. Thanks to the aid of the mysterious officer known as Sly Marbo, the jungle fighters would manage to retrieve Strachan's prone body and escape mere moments before the entire cavern began to collapse around them. Despite the injuries he had suffered, Strachan survived the carnage, though he nonetheless required immediate medical attention. Having struck a decisive blow against the orcs, the Munitorum would redeploy the Catachan II to a new theatre of war within the nearby Ulani system, while additional reinforcements from the Selvian Dragoons led by High Praetor Oshpreen would make planetfall to eliminate the remainder of the greenskin presence upon the world. Oshpreen, however, would take full credit of the Imperial victory for himself, resulting in him being appointed as dulma'lin's new planetary governor. His reign was not to last, however, as 2 years later a cult dedicated to the chaos god Slanesh would instigate an uprising upon the world. The sole Astra Militarum regiment that was close enough to provide aid to dulma'lin was that of the Catachan II, although thanks to various communication issues that prevented the jungle fighters from receiving their pleas for aid, Oshpreen and his inept and corrupt government were left to fend for themselves. Recruitment and Doctrine.
Do you know where I'm from? This'll be easy.
Unknown Guardsman of the Catachan 7th Regiment. For the native peoples of Catachan, daily life is in itself a desperate struggle for survival. It is commonly said that children are taught to shoot straight before even learning to walk, and are often accomplished killers by the age other humans have begun to read and write. Because of their harsh upbringings, Catachans are forced to be self-sufficient, deadly, and tough. But their isolationist and survivalist culture has often led them to becoming incredibly distrustful of, if not outright insubordinate, towards outsiders. As a result, Imperial Commissars are an incredibly rare sight within jungle fighter regiments, as many of these disciplinary officers will find themselves subject to horrific accidents should they try to assert their authority over the Catachans. However, should a Prefectus officer somehow manage to succeed in earning the respect of their troops, such as by showing incredible bravery or cunning, then the jungle fighters will indeed follow any commands that they may issue, even if only begrudgingly. The people of Catachan are also known to be incredibly tribalistic, holding close familial ties to one another. As a result, in a manner similar to how a Catachan tribe would elect a chief or headman, officers within a newly founded regiment will often be elected to their position by their peers, as opposed to meritocratic regimental promotion. Owing to this close-knit culture, jungle fighter squads will often be comprised of relatives, brothers, sisters, and cousins, all fighting alongside one another, often under the command of an uncle, father, or in some cases, a grandfather or great-uncle. Examples of the latter are exceptionally rare, due to the simple fact that few individuals can enjoy growing to an old age upon Catachan, or in military service to the Imperium. These bonds afford jungle fighter squads a level of trust and capacity for teamwork that other Astra Militarum regiments could only dream of. Unlike other Astra Militarum regiments, the jungle fighters eschew the use of medals to denote periods of service or in recognition of exceptional feats, in favor of tattoos, such as a skull and crossbone tattoo to denote a marksman, skulls for every 5 years of service, and daggers for every decade. As well as this, the Catachans will often dull their regimental badges with soot or ash, so as to allow them to better hide within the bush and prevent such iconography from giving away their positions to the enemy. In addition to the standard issue lasgun, Catachans also make use of knives known as Catachan fangs, which sport a blade that can measure up to 20 inches in length. These knives in the hands of the burly Catachans are utterly devastating close combat weapons, and are easily capable of not only bringing down, but even decapitating creatures such as orcs and gene stealers. As befitting their specialization in ambush and guerrilla warfare, the jungle fighters will often make frequent use of mines and demolition charges, using such explosives in order to make traps for their foes to blunder into. Despite specializing in jungle warfare, the Catachans will nonetheless make extensive use of vehicles, such as tanks and APCs, should the situation call for it. The most favored of which is that of the Sentinel, a lightly armored walker that is able to navigate through dense and uneven jungle terrain, almost as well as a typical Catachan, and will often be fitted with flamers and chain blades in order to help carve through dense vegetation. The jungle fighters are themselves the primary export from Catachan, as the world's population will provide regiments to fight in the Imperium's wars in exchange for basic supplies such as food, water, and medicine. A pact that has stood now for thousands of years. Whether they are utilized for infiltration, ambush, open combat, or even simple garrison duty, the jungle fighters remain resolute and utterly uncompromising warriors who would gladly charge into environments that would make even a space marine think twice. And that concludes this episode of 40k Lore for Newcomers. If you like this video, please consider supporting Remleys on Patreon for more content. To those who are new to 40k, we hope you learned something. So leave a comment below, and thank you for watching.